would like to do the Pledge of Allegiance and then starting on the agenda. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, this meeting, special meeting, is for the approval of emergency resolution for well 7 emergency funding application. Council, you have a copy, and we'll read through for the audience. Resolution number 23-07, a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Lynn, Adams County, Washington, declaring an emergency and waiving the competitive bidding requirements for a public works project. Whereas RCW 39.04.2801E provides that the governing body of a municipality may waive the competitive bidding requirement for a public works project in the event of an emergency. And whereas RCW 39.04.2803 defines emergency as unforeseen circumstances beyond the control of the municipality that either A, present a real immediate threat to the proper performance of essential functions, or B, will likely result in material loss or damage to property, bodily injury, or loss of life if immediate action is not taken. And whereas in January of 2023, the Town of Lynn discovered that the production capacity of well 7 is dramatically reduced and not able to supply the town's drinking water system. And whereas the town's other water sources are not adequate to meet the anticipated peak summer water demands for domestic use or emergency fire flow. And whereas the Town Council has determined that due to the timing, location, critical function, and need for immediate repair or rehabilitation of well 7, insufficient time may not exist to complete the construction project through the standard competitive bidding process, and must therefore declare the situation as an emergency. And whereas the Town Council has therefore determined that an emergency situation exists and desires to perform the necessary rehabilitation of well 7 by directing the mayor and town staff to pursue available funding opportunities and to waive the competitive bidding process and award all necessary contracts on behalf of the municipality to address the emergency situation. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Town Council of the Town of Lynn hereby declares that an emergency situation exists with the condition of well 7 and authorizes the mayor and town staff to pursue available funding opportunities and to waive the competitive bidding process and award all necessary contracts on behalf of the municipality to undertake construction. Introduced, passed, and approved this 17th day of May 2023, if signed. So we have Remmick from CenturyWest Engineering here to address questions.
Answer questions or write comments, whatever. If it would be helpful, I can kind of summarize what brought us to this point today, why we're meeting tonight. And I wasn't in on This is from the beginning. This predates my work here at the town. I took over from Steve Nelson when he left at the end of the year, moving back to Louisiana. But it was discovered in late summer last year that well 7 was not producing as well as it had been. The production capacity was down significantly. So we hired a licensed hydrogeologist, Dr. Kevin Lindsay, to do an analysis of the well and determine why specifically there's such a sudden change in production capacity at well 7. It's been known that all the wells on the Columbia Plateau are slowly decreasing because the water table is slowly declining, but this was a sudden event that changed the production capacity. So in October, they came out and did some sampling and the video well 7 and determined that there was a biofilm growing that was not typical of a deep aquifer well. So some contamination from an unknown source has allowed aerobic bacteria to get into the well and form a biofilm. This would not be expected in a deep aquifer well because typically only anaerobic bacteria live at that depth. So it has to be something that was introduced down the borehole, either from the casing of well 7 or some other source, possibly well 5. That's potential, but unknown at this time. But the case remains that the biofilm is the suspected cause of the change in production. So we received that memo in January, which is why January is the date the town became aware of it, because that was the results of the memo from Dr. Lindsay. Starting at that time, around February, we started looking at funding options for repairing the well. Dr. Lindsay provided an estimate. I asked him just this morning to confirm the prices, but approximately $300,000 is the cost to rehabilitate that well. And that would involve pulling the pump column out, inspecting the pump and column. They'll do the video of the borehole again. They check the straightness, and then they are going to chemically treat the well, disinfect it, and then scrub it using specialized brushes. And the well is, I believe, 800 feet deep, so it's quite a process to clean the well. And then once they treat it, scrub it, and they'll replace the pump column and then purge the contaminants out a couple of times to clean out the contaminants. And that's suspected that will open up the fissures in the basalt aquifer that kind of closed up because of the biofilm and return capacity to the well. So we started looking at funding options back in February. We engaged Rural Development. They have a program called the Emergency Community Water Assistance Grant, which is specifically for communities that have a sudden event that causes an emergency of their source. And so we felt this was an applicable use of that fund, so we engaged Rural Development, and we've gone back and forth with them a number of times. They said initially it sounded like it would qualify, but they asked for some information. So we got some pumping information, graphed it out, sent that back to them, and they said, yeah, that looks good, but we still need more information. And so they provided us a list of things. So they generally move at the rate of federal bureaucracy, which is kind of where we're at now. The town may still qualify, but they still haven't even told us that this is a qualifying event for them to meet their requirements. And so just the rate at which they move, it would likely be into the fall before we would see grant funds from them. The opportunity came up just last week where the Public Works Board received funding this year from the legislature. They're a state agency, part of the Department of Commerce. It's been several years since they've had a fully funded program, but this year they had, the legislature funded them. So they have 3 different programs, one of which is the emergency loan program. So this is not grant funding that we're looking at this point. This is a low interest loan that's offered by the Public Works Board. The reason it piqued our interest is because of the timing. So we're meeting tonight because if we can get the application in tomorrow by the close of business, they will review it at their next committee meeting, which is on Friday, and then they'll present it to the full Public Works Board for approval on June 2nd, which is their next meeting date. And so they have the opportunity to move very quickly and provide funding that we could then move forward. And with the emergency resolution, you don't have to do the normal 3 weeks of bidding and wait for bids to come back in the process. You can hire a contractor to do this work. It's a very limited number of people who can do this work anyway, so it's basically getting a quote from somebody at this point. So they would be able to move and potentially get the rehabilitation done. Probably early July would be my guess at this point. So that's why we asked for the special council meeting tonight, so we have the opportunity to look at this and get the funding in place early before it gets to be late summer. So that's where we're at. As I mentioned, this is a loan. It's not a grant, so it's not ideal. But the emergency loan is through the Public Works Board because Adams County is considered a distressed county. We would likely qualify for a 25% grant, so it would at least be not the full 100% loan. It would be 75% of the amount requested. And interest rate should be 1.38% or less. They can adjust. So it's a very low interest, far below what you would get in the open market. And initially, the emergency loans are a 5-year loan, so it's a very short payback. So it has a high monthly rate, and as a result, but it can be converted to a 20-year loan after a time. And I asked for some details on that this afternoon, and I didn't get them before I had to leave this afternoon. So, but there's a potential to convert it later on, and also the question I asked is if it could be refinanced in the future with a larger program, such as through Department of Health has their drinking water state revolving fund, which would be for funding a much larger program, such as a new well, which is probably going to be required in the future anyway. So rehabilitation on well 7 is, the idea is it'll work for a couple of years and improve capacity, perhaps last much longer, but at least keep through this summer and possibly even next year as we get into the process of looking at building a new well. It will become a new primary source for the town. So that's kind of what brought us here tonight.
So I have a question on the resolution. I would like to, the very last sentence said that Paula could just award. I think council should have a say in awarding it to somebody. It's okay for you guys to skip most of the bid process, but I do think council should have a say in awarding it, and that wouldn't hold anything up that much time. Secondly, as far as borrowing money, we do have, I don't know if you can do this, but we have $77,000 in that USDA fund that we might be able to borrow against and pay it back with less interest than what the others are. And there, I don't remember how much is in the LGIP fund, but we could use some of that money instead of, you know, the residents having to pay it back too. Those are just some things to look at. But I really would like the wording in the resolution changed to allow council to approve that award.
And just so everyone's aware that the language for that emergency resolution came from the standard form Department of Health provides for emergency resolutions.
Okay.
So that is standard wording.
Okay. Well,
yeah,
we've had some problems, so I would rather, I mean, that's up to council.
Okay, I will read it again. Now therefore be it resolved that the town council of the town of Lynn hereby declares that an emergency situation exists with the condition of well 7 and authorizes the mayor and town staff to pursue available funding opportunities and to waive the competitive bidding process and award all necessary contracts on behalf of the municipality to undertake construction.
So it allows the town to make, the council to make all those decisions? Okay, as long as it says that. I thought it said it allows the mayor to do all that.
No,
Okay.
It allows the mayor to award the contract.
Okay, I have a question. Since it is a bio problem that we have in well 7, and we're going to do all of this work to get rid of it, okay, what are the chances of it coming back?
There's a chance that it can come back. That's why we're.
How much of what do you know?
Because the source is unidentified, it's difficult to say, and this is all Dr. Lindsay's analysis. This is what he's provided to us. So it seems that well 5 may be the source, just because it's it's an unabandoned well that's upstream. So there's a possibility that that's the source, but and by Department of Ecology rules, that needs to be abandoned properly anyway. But that's quite a process in itself. That has to remove the casing to the degree possible, then fill the entire borehole with non-treated grout, basically. So it's a pretty significant process, probably on the order of like $50,000, which would probably be part of a larger project to be done in the future. But that's no guarantee either that would be the prevent the future formation of biofilm. So that's why we're presenting this basically as this will be through for a couple of years, but we really need to be looking at a new well source for a long-term solution.
Weren't they saying the seals were not there between that, was it 12 and 10-inch casing, or 12 and 7 or something?
That's suspected, and they're guessing that may be the case.
Oh, okay.
I don't think they've been able to confirm that.
Oh, okay. It sounded like he identified that.
I have some questions. Yeah. Like the reservoir, I don't know, have you been up 7?
I've been up to well 7, yeah.
That's still full of water, correct?
Yes.
That's been like that stagnant water for about 7 or 8 months.
Oh, I don't know.
Yes, yeah, it has. And I'm saying when that has to be drained, because any work on that water's going to have to be drained out. All the pipes flushed, the reservoir totally clean, dissipated from top. That water should have been drained out months ago. And then the other thing I want to ask, what is actually wrong with the well? Without suspecting, or is there an immediate cause? You know, a definite answer?
All I know is what our hired expert presented to us, and that's the memo that says it's biofilm that is growing on the bore wall on the salt.
Did that close down the well in the beginning though?
That's what we understand to be the problem. Yes.
See, when the well was closed down in the beginning, there was 5, 6 different reasons why that was closed down. No one said anything about bioacids or bacteria, any of that stuff.
you didn't know that.
That's what I mean. So how did we
The
go
testing wasn't
on? How did we
done
go on restrictions without a definite cause as to why?
to save the water that we have.
What did we want to say that we couldn't use it?
Well, can we go back to your well 7, or the reservoir? Correct me if I'm wrong. Well 8 helps feed both reservoirs by gravity. Because the north side, this side of town is still taking water out of that reservoir up there by well 7.
So what you're saying is basically 8 feet 7? That's a no-no. That was not. I'm sorry,
8,
Paul, I worked on that, and we had that reservoir 7 was empty for 2.5 weeks. Okay? If we'd have been in there and water had been coming, it would have been drowned. That was bone dry, we had to scrub it and clean it.
Because it was off, right?
Exactly. Well, 8 was feeding the town, which is diverted to houses
Which
around
was off
town.
of that reservoir.
But
The way
it
sorry.
does not feed well 7.
Okay, the way I understand it is when well 8 is running, it feeds, it fills both reservoirs.
No.
And then this side of town is taking its water out of that reservoir too. And then,
7 does not, 7 at the moment should not be feeding anything.
no,
Well,
it's
what-
off.
What was that? Do you understand this?
Well, yeah,
Well
I
8
think
does
it's
not
probably,
feed well 7. So I mean, how can you work in a reservoir? Okay,
No,
where's the water go? It's diverted around town. It doesn't fill up the reservoir.
okay, but well 8 is not feeding well 7.
That's what I said.
Well 8 is feeding both reservoirs, 2 and 3.
2 and 3. Which ones are they? 3 question.
72 and 83. So 3 is up, way up there on that hill.
New
And
guys.
then, and yeah, and then this side, I think, is reservoir 2. So what I was saying was that, well, the way I understand it, well 8 is feeding both reservoirs, and both sides of the town is being fed through the reservoir.
I'm still not understanding this because the water, when reservoir 7 was workable, and it was running, we were getting a water from it. We shut it off. Well 8 then feeds the town. It doesn't go through another reservoir.
No, it does, it feeds both reservoirs.
I believe they all ride on the system. So
Yeah.
it's not, so the water level in the reservoirs that sits there and rides up and down slowly, well 8 feeds the entire system and pushes up into both
See,
reservoirs.
I mean, when I worked on it, I don't know if this makes sense, but when I worked on it, there's 3 divert valves up there.
Mhm.
My house, I don't know if you know where they are.
I haven't been up to the reservoir, no.
You turn it off, you drain reservoir 7, water's always off.
Mhm.
You get in there and you work. If the town is running on 8, okay, where's that water coming from? Well, it's not coming from 8. That's diverted around the town on this side and same side. It does not go into one, it does not go into reservoir 7.
No, number 7 is the well. The reservoirs are 2 and 3.
Yeah, well, it doesn't go into that. I've always known it was 7, when we cleaned it, when we worked on it, that was 7. Yeah, and I've also drained that one up there where the town has run on this one.
The location is well 7, so that's well. That's where.
That's not coming. If anybody knows different, point me in the right direction. You know, that stagnant water up there is
No, it's not, it's being used.
So you're saying that's fresh water? So well
It's
8,
being used.
well 8 is still not number 7, correct? No.
The reservoir.
The
It's
reservoirs.
That's not filling them up.
It's filling both.
Yeah,
It's not,
it's
well, it's
both.
not going directly to, it's just riding on the system. So
So, I don't know how to explain it. Say this is what, reservoir 7, yes? Number 8 does not fill that. There's no water from well 8 at all going in that reservoir. So, you know, that's diverted around town without going through the reservoir. If it's coming from another source, then it's contaminated. Prove me wrong, Paul. I
No,
worked
you
on it,
proved
you
me
know.
wrong.
I worked on it.
Okay, but you proved me
Can you
wrong
remember,
because,
Jamie, do you remember that was made when we cleaned the scrub that? I may be wrong, but I don't think so.
I think there is valving to bypass the well. I
Yes.
mean, yeah, the well. And that when the whole system is full, I think it does push into the other reservoir. That's what I think.
I mean, when we were working in that was probably
That's kind of like,
you know, we were scrubbing that.
yeah, I remember I was in there.
Yeah. So I mean, the water from well 8 is still getting around town.
But I think since it's a gravity-fed system, that the well over there is producing enough to fill fill all the pipes through town.
Yes,
And then if they have the right valving open, I believe that it can go back into the other reservoir.
yeah, and I remember when Joe was there, we cut 2 of them valves off.
Oh,
So it did go into today,
yeah.
you know, so, I mean, basically then what you're saying is we get from 1A to, I'll say 1/7, and they're stopping up.
Topping off. They're staying level.
Yeah, right, so,
And if I turn my faucet on, well, then it goes down.
so there's no chance of contaminants in that water?
That part I don't know. That's
From the beginning, before they figured all this out, was there, obviously, if there's contaminants in the well and it was being used before they figured it out, so there was contaminants, and there probably are contaminants in the reservoir stuck to the walls and the oil and all that.
There's a possibility. Bacteria are not necessarily pathogenic. Just because there's bacteria doesn't mean they're harmful bacteria. They still form a biofilm. But that's why generally there's a chlorine residual maintained throughout the system.
and the water is tested every morning.
Yeah, and that's how that's controlled. Even if there is bacteria being introduced from the well, there's
So then why the need to turn the well off?
it's not producing water. That's why. It's not the contamination that's the problem.
That's what it sounded like you were saying, was the
You know, what we
biofilm.
need to know what the actual problem is. What we've gone on, so that may be this, that may suspect this,
Well,
you know.
It's 800 feet down, so it's hard to say exactly. You can only do what you can from sampling and videoing.
I
But
think that was like in 2015, I think it was, that was all recently been done by the well.
Yeah, we went down another 100 feet.
well, speaking,
They had cameras down there and
Mhm.
done everything. You know, as far as we're concerned, that's the problem, shut down for no definite reason. And now we can fix it, and there's still no definite reason, and
So
then
you-
you don't.
Well, we won't know that until.
Yeah, you
get
just
it done.
said it's not necessarily because of the biofilm, because you can treat that with chlorine. So
the
why was the well shut down in the first place?
because it's not producing water. That's why. So as I understand the analysis, the biofilm is so the casing of the well only goes down a couple hundred feet, and then it goes into an open borehole right to the fraction of salt aquifer. So there's several hundred feet of this fraction of the salt that allows water to come in. The biofilm has grown on the surface of that salt and grown into the fissures to prevent water from flowing freely into the borehole. And in addition to just the biofilm, it also changes the pH slightly, which has caused I think it was described as conditions that are more likely to cause calcification. So calcium basically forming on the walls of the.
We have a ton of calcium. Our showers, our faucets,
Yeah.
everything has
So-
buildup on it.
So basically that's what's happening is the bacteria are causing the biofilm. It's also causing a condition that allows more calcification to occur. And that's what's closing up the fractures and
The availability of the
fissures in
water
salt.
to come in.
The water can't flow freely into the borehole.
That was a good explanation.
Okay, very good.
Where are the samples taken? They taken from the reservoir sample?
Just today, both wells were, taken to, samples were taken and they're being shipped off to, the lab.
How often are you doing that for both wells?
Today was the kit, but every day they do that chlorine testing,
Somebody goes up to that reservoir and tests it, or just the water? in?
just different locations in town.
I think that probably be better if actually the reservoir water was tested.
We could do that.
Just, you know, give a little test and see.
But well 8 and well 7 was tested at the spigots at the wells today, and that got mailed off or flown off through the
Is that
lab.
done once a month? Is that right? Or is that just something special for this?
No, it's not special just for this. It's done periodic. I don't think it's like every 3 months.
Yeah, and I don't know which samples are put today, but if there's a schedule, so specifics for your system when Joe does those. But then the other chemicals are done on a less frequent basis, so they don't, not likely to change quickly.
As an engineer, well, I don't know, probably a hard question, but do you think the town could possibly survive on well 8 for a period of time with no problems? I mean, it seems to recover really quick. When we had the fire, that required no time.
Right, but it's a, yeah, that's a crystal ball question, you know. The gambling part of that is that you have no backup. So if you're relying on well 8 and there's any kind of an issue that shuts down that well for a day, the reservoirs are going to drain. And you know, when there's an issue with a deep well like that, it may take days or weeks to fix. If there's an issue with the pump or any number of things, especially with supply chain issues as they are now, nobody has parts just sitting around, so it could be a period of time before you can get what you need to do to repair well 8. And then you have nothing, because if you're relying on your, you know, well 8 is your last line of defense, and that's your only line of defense
Exactly,
through
yes.
the summer. That's the situation.
So I'm just curious about the reservoir that had the direct water, that's got the biofilm and everything in it. Is there a problem with whatever was in the reservoir, stuck in the oil that goes down the walls? And, you know,
That would
it need to be
should be
cleaned?
sampled. It may need to be. I haven't looked in the reservoir, so I don't know.
Would that be something maybe for this project, to have the people when they're here do it?
It can be done. It would be a different contractor.
Oh.
There's specialty contractors that do just reservoir cleaning. That's all they do. This would be somebody that they do borehole cleaning, so they're equipped with, you know, the drill rigs and cranes and stuff, full pumps.
Would be something the town staff can do, because we've cleaned it in the past.
I would think. I mean, if it can be drained.
Yeah, that's what we used to do. We drained them both back up the valves and that, and we drained it twice. It was drained. Because like you say, the oil was scum, you know, if it's not clean. Looks
It's,
around everything.
yeah.
Oh, we've got those socks that we put in there.
Yeah, float.
I just wanted to bring that up so that you think about it when we're doing all this, if we get to do this project.
Sure.
To make sure that that is taken care of also for the town.
Yeah, we had that.
I just wanted to ask about the rates. So if we get the 500 or whatever grant from USDA, that's all grant money, no cost to our citizens, but the public works one was,
It's a 5-year loan.
5 years.
Yeah, but it can be converted to a 20-year,
Okay.
1.38.
1.38%.
So if we did the 5-year loan, what kind of rate increase? Did you do any figures on that?
So, yeah, I mean, just quick pencil figures, but so a 5-year loan, the monthly breakdown, that would be $3,800 a month, so $1,392 per connection. So that's why you would want to convert that to a 20-year, which makes it a $1,000 a month payment, which is $3.85 per connection.
So we could do it faster if we pay, and if we wait, we don't have to pay. But we don't have
Basically,
water
yeah,
this summer.
Yeah, that's
okay.
the
I just-
gamble.
I wanted to clarify that for.
So this conversion, how long do we have to wait until you actually can convert it to a 20?
So that was what I asked for specifics on this afternoon. I haven't heard that. So you don't have to start repaying until the loan closes out, so that can be till like the end of the year anyway. And then there's a process. I learned of this funding source just last week. Thursday they had, it was the first time they've had a public meeting on this, because it's a new funding source. They had a webinar on it. So I immediately contacted and said, I know somebody that might need this, so what do we need to do? And so one of the requirements is passing an emergency resolution. So in order to qualify for the emergency funding, you have the ruling body
And that's what this is.
Yeah.
So, any more questions, sir?
So can you, if you take the loan out and you qualify for the grant, can you pay off the loan with the grant?
Typically, no. So grant, especially emergency grant funding, they say if you found another funding source, then you don't need an emergency grant.
Good question.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely that. Also, this is, what we're discussing tonight is to apply for the loan. It's not guaranteed that it would even be approved, although it seems positive. But the town's not obligating themselves to anything at this point. So we're just applying for the funding and
Declaring the emergency.
yeah, we're doing what we need to qualify, and then if we apply and we hear back from the Public Works Board that it's an approvable loan, then it'll be up to the council again to approve that loan and accept that.
And you're on a tight time schedule tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, if we don't get this, don't get Friday's committee meeting, the next one is at the end of June, so it'll be the July Public Works Board meeting. So we're another month.
So we process it. It's not, I don't think it's gonna hurt to have the stepping up in, because it's just for application, right?
Correct.
And whether we're approved or not is a gamble.
What happens at the end, we take out this grant and this loan.
Mhm.
Maybe the way, like you say, could go haywire in a couple of months or a year or whatever. Then what? Do we then apply for another loan, or can we get 100% grant or something like that?
100% grant is it's hard to come by, but it's possible. And that's something else we may want to discuss. So the next funding opportunity is Community Development Block Grant, which is 100% funding. They have a funding cycle that ends mid-June. In order to qualify for that application, it has to be a public hearing. So at your next council meeting, you just have to, there's a flyer that has to be presented, and you've done it before because you've done Community Development Block Grant funding before. But that is money that you apply for 100% grant, and that's something that we would put in for the actual new well construction. So that would be right now what we're estimating. We don't have an actual site pick or anything like that. There hasn't been any pre-development work, but if we drill at a site similar, one of the existing wells, well 6 was looked at previously as a possible site for a new well, because it's already, the infrastructure is nearby. You wouldn't have to do, wouldn't have to bring power in or have to run water lines a long way. And that's, but at that depth, they're assuming if it's 1,000 feet, so we're probably $1 million plus to drill a new well. So that would be what we put in for Community Development Block Grant. And that's put in June. You don't hear till November, December timeframe. But that would be your opportunity for 100% grant. But that would be for the larger project, not necessarily the well 7 rehabilitation.
I mean, that would be my only concern, that we borrow money once and then we have to borrow it again.
Right.
We're not a rich town.
Nobody is, but yeah, that's, so these are the funding opportunities that are available because nobody has that kind of money in pocket. And so there are a few grant opportunities around, and then low interest loans are what's available from the various agencies.
What is the maximum on CDBG?
10 million.
Oh,
So yeah,
That went up.
but
Yeah.
the problem with CDBG is you're competing against everything. So it's not just other water systems or small communities. It's people wanting to build firehouses and school improvements and bridges, and so it's a much larger pool of money, but it's also a lot more competitive.
Okay. Say we build the new well, say it's gonna go approximately 1,000 feet, and is that all gonna be cased, or is that?
It'd be
very
similar.
to set?
So that is, it's similar construction all around the on Columbia Plateau, it's where you have 200-300 feet of casing to get down through kind of the overburden soils down into the fractured basalt. That's where the water bearing layers are down in the fractured basalt. And that's typically holds itself open so it doesn't need to be cased down. So you don't need to have casing extending the full distance. If you have casing going all the way down, it has to be perforated and screened, and so that becomes much more expensive because you have hundreds of feet of screened casing going down to that depth. So if it can be done open borehole, so that stable well, then that's the way to go.
Begs a lot to think about, right? Honestly.
Of immediacy.
Accept resolution 2307.
Moved and seconded to approve resolution number 23-07. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I thank you. I think that's the end of questions for Mr. Remmick.
Thank you for coming, answering those questions.
So, are we adjourning?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second that.
Okay, moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we have treats, courtesy of treats. The Law family.